The massive Futuristic War Academy was a sight to behold. The arena buzzed with the energy of soldiers from countless alien species, all gathered to train and prepare for the wars that raged across the galaxy. Each race brought their own unique combat abilities, honed over centuries, making them feared and respected throughout the stars. Humanity, however, was a different story. The human race, once considered a budding species, was now seen as the weakest in the galaxy. Their technology, though impressive to some extent, was nothing compared to the advanced weaponry and enhancements of the alien races. Humans were often underestimated, and in the cruel world of intergalactic warfare, that was a dangerous thing. Among the many soldiers gathered, one human stood out, a young man named Bonner. His wide-eyed innocence was evident in the way he looked around, nervous and unsure. This was his first day in the academy, and his first real test as a soldier. Bonner had been thrust into this world, far from home, to prove himself among species who had far more advanced technology and combat skills. He wasn't the strongest, the fastest, or the most equipped. In fact, Bonner was little more than a rookie by their standards. His uniform looked simple compared to the shining armors of the alien warriors around him. He felt like an ant standing in a room full of giants. The moment Bonner stepped onto the training field, the alien soldiers around him started to laugh. It was not just a light chuckle. It was a deep, mocking laughter that echoed through the arena. They could barely contain their amusement at the sight of the weak human. There were towering warlords from races who could lift massive tanks with a single hand, soldiers with enhanced speed that made them blur across the battlefield, and others who could manipulate energy itself. And then there was Bonner, a human, smaller and seemingly weaker than them all. One of the alien soldiers, a brutish warrior from a race known for their sheer strength, smirked as he approached Bonner. "What's the rookie doing here? Shouldn't you be back home, watching your pitiful little human shows?" He jeered, his voice tripping with disdain. The others joined in, their taunts growing louder as they made cruel remarks about humanity's lack of power. They bet among themselves on how long it would take for Bonner to be knocked out of the training simulation. Bonner stood there, clenching his fists at his sides, feeling the weight of their ridicule. He had trained hard for this moment, but how could he compete against beings who could bend metal with their minds or manipulate the battlefield with the flick of their fingers? He could hear the whispers behind him, and he could see the smug expressions on their faces. He wasn't fooling anyone. They knew he was just a human, no more than a plaything for them to toy with. The simulation began, and Bonner was paired with an alien soldier renowned for his battle skills. This particular soldier, a lithe and fast combatant, was the pride of his people. He had defeated some of the galaxy's fiercest warriors, and now, it seemed, he would make quick work of this human rookie. The alien soldiers stood around the arena, eager to watch the humiliation unfold. Even the higher-ranking officers, who were in charge of overseeing the training, seemed amused. Bonner took his position on the battlefield. He wasn't sure if he was supposed to be afraid, but something deep inside him told him to remain calm. He had been trained, but this was different. His opponent was fast, much faster than any human he'd ever faced. The alien soldier dashed toward him with the speed of a lightning strike, barely visible to the human eye. Bonner barely had time to react, but he tried to block the attack, his body instinctively moving to defend himself. The alien soldier's blow landed with such force that Bonner was sent skidding across the arena. His body crashed into the ground with a painful thud, but he quickly got back up, blood trickling from his lip. The alien soldiers erupted in laughter, their mocking voices drowning out the sounds of the combat. "Is this really all humanity has to offer?" One of them sneered. "This is going to be over in a matter of seconds." Bonner struggled to steady himself, feeling the sting of the pain in his chest. His opponent circled him like a predator, every step calculated, every movement precise. The alien soldier didn't hesitate for a second, knowing that Bonner wasn't even close to his level of combat prowess. With each attack, Bonner could feel the weight of their judgment. He couldn't win, couldn't even hold his ground. But he couldn't give up. Not like this. The other alien soldiers continued to mock him, egging on the battle with cruel comments. How does it feel, human, to know that you will never stand a chance against us? Their words rang in his ears, and Bonner's heart raced with a mix of frustration and determination. He had trained for this moment, but the reality of the situation was harsher than he'd ever imagined. But just as Bonner felt the weight of defeat pressing down on him, something inside him shifted. He remembered the lessons he had learned, the long hours of grueling training. His mind, though overwhelmed by the odds, began to focus. The alien soldier lunged at him again, this time with a strike aimed straight for his head. Bonner barely had time to react, but his instincts kicked in. With a swift movement, he ducked and rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding the blow. The alien's momentum carried him forward, and Bonner used that to his advantage. With a quick swipe, he managed to land a blow to the alien's midsection. For a moment, the alien faltered. He hadn't expected the human to be able to land even a single hit. The audience fell silent. The mocking laughter stopped. Bonner stood there, breathless, his fists clenched, staring down his opponent. The alien soldier stared back, his eyes narrowing. This human was more than he had bargained for. Bonner knew that this was just the beginning. His opponent would not take this lightly. The aliens had written him off as weak, a mere plaything for their amusement. But Bonner had something they didn't expect, something they didn't understand. He wasn't just a soldier. He wasn't just a rookie. He was a human. The battle was far from over. The suspense in the air thickened. Would Bonner be able to hold his ground? Would the human race be mocked forever? Or was there something more to this rookie than anyone realized? As the battle continued, Bonner's every move was scrutinized. His every breath became a matter of life and death. But deep down, he knew that this was his moment. This was where everything changed. The question was, would he survive? Or would the galaxy's greatest warriors prove once again that humanity was nothing more than a weak, fleeting species? The answer was still uncertain, but the tension in the air was undeniable. The humans had been underestimated, but Bonner was about to show the galaxy just how wrong they were. The story sets the stage for an epic clash between the human spirit and the technologically advanced alien forces. It's a battle not just for survival, but for respect. And Bonner, despite being seen as a rookie, might be humanity's last hope. The battle raged on, with Bonner struggling to stay on his feet. His body ached from the relentless blows of his opponent, and the mocking laughter of the alien soldiers echoed in his ears. It seemed like there was no way out. His opponent was faster, stronger, and more skilled, and the weight of humanity's defeat seemed inevitable. Bonner's hands trembled as he wiped the blood from his face, the pain in his chest growing with every passing second. But then something changed. In the midst of the overwhelming odds, Bonner's mind began to shift. The constant mockery and jeers from the alien soldiers no longer fazed him. Instead, his focus sharpened. It was as if his body had finally realized the true depth of the situation. For the first time since entering the arena, Bonner's mind and body aligned, and a sudden wave of clarity washed over him. The years of training, the grueling hours spent mastering techniques, the painful lessons, everything he'd endured in silence now surged to the forefront. Bonner wasn't just any rookie. The world didn't know it, but Bonner had been secretly trained in an ancient martial art, passed down through generations of humanity's greatest warriors. It was a form of combat that combined the grace of fluid, precise movements with the brutal effectiveness of modern warfare. This style, though once nearly lost to time, was now fused with cutting-edge technology, allowing Bonner to access advanced combat strategies with the help of AI. No one, not even the aliens, knew about this training, this secret weapon that Bonner possessed. His breathing steadied, and his senses heightened as his body instinctively moved into a new position. His mind raced through calculations, scanning the environment for weaknesses and opportunities. The alien soldier lunged toward him again, but this time, Bonner was ready. His movements were no longer stiff or hesitant. They were fluid and precise. The eye-assisted strategies activated, guiding his body with pinpoint accuracy. For a split second, Bonner's body shimmered, and the lights around him flickered. He had activated the cloaking technology hidden within his suit. The world seemed to slow as Bonner became a blur of speed and agility, his movements indistinguishable from the environment. The alien soldier, so used to easily overpowering his foes, was suddenly at a loss. Bonner dodged his attacks with precision, each movement more graceful than the last. The alien's strikes met nothing but air as Bonner danced around him, his feet barely touching the ground. The aliens in the arena watched in stunned silence. What was happening? How was this human, who they had written off as weak, suddenly moving with such skill? The combat was no longer a one-sided fight. Bonner had turned the tables. He was no longer just a rookie. He was a formidable opponent, one whose speed and agility were unlike anything the aliens had encountered before. Bonner wasn't just dodging attacks. He was using the environment to his advantage. He leaped off walls, spun through the air, and landed with a fluidity that stunned everyone watching. His cloak technology made him appear as though he were everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Each of his movements seemed calculated, yet spontaneous. It was as if he had become one with the battlefield, blending physical combat with digital precision. The alien soldier, disoriented and desperate, swung wildly at Bonner, but he could never land a blow. Bonner's movements were too fast, too precise. It wasn't just his body that was moving with this new sense of purpose. It was his mind, guiding every action, every dodge, every strike. His eye-assisted strategies allowed him to anticipate his opponent's next move, giving him the upper hand. For a moment, Bonner's opponent hesitated. He couldn't keep up with the human's newfound speed. He had underestimated him, just as the rest of the galaxy had done. The crowd of alien soldiers watched, their faces a mix of confusion and disbelief. They were used to seeing the power and might of their species on display, not this human, a rookie who had suddenly become an unpredictable force on the battlefield. Bonner's chest heaved as he continued to fight. He was pushing himself harder than ever before, tapping into his full potential. The once doubtful human rookie was now becoming a living weapon. With every step, every movement, he seemed to grow stronger. His body, though still not as physically advanced as his alien counterparts, was now moving with the skill of a seasoned fighter. His strikes, though not as powerful as those of the alien warriors, were quick and precise, aimed at the weak points of his opponent's defense. The battle had shifted. Bonner's every movement was calculated, his focus unwavering. The tide of the fight was turning, and the alien soldiers began to realize that their earlier mockery had been a grave mistake. This human, this rookie they had laughed at, was not the weakling they had assumed. He had the potential to become something far greater than they could have ever imagined. As Bonner ducked beneath another wild strike, he retaliated with a well-placed kick to the alien's chest, sending him staggering back. The alien soldier's eyes widened in shock as he tried to regain his footing, but it was too late. Bonner was already in motion again, using his cloaking technology to blur his movements. With a swift combination of kicks and punches, he disabled his opponent's armor, leaving the alien vulnerable. The alien warrior stumbled back, disoriented and struggling to keep up with Bonner's speed. His arrogance had blinded him to the true strength of the human fighter. Bonner's movements had become a blur, and the alien soldier was no longer able to predict where he would strike next. Bonner had successfully turned the fight into something entirely different, an unpredictable, high-speed battle where agility and precision mattered more than brute strength. Bonner's every move was executed with the precision of a machine, yet there was an undeniable human edge to it. The aliens were used to fighting their battles with raw power, but Bonner fought with strategy and instinct, tapping into the best of both worlds. His eye-assisted techniques and ancient martial arts were a perfect combination, allowing him to outthink and outmaneuver his opponent at every turn. As the alien soldier staggered back, panting heavily, the once confident crowd of alien soldiers grew silent. They had never seen a human fight like this before. They had never seen anyone, let alone a rookie, turn the tide of a battle in such a way. Bonner's transformation from a weak, inexperienced soldier into a powerhouse was a spectacle none of them would ever forget. The tension in the arena was palpable. The fate of the battle hung in the balance. The alien soldiers who had once mocked Bonner now found themselves uncertain. Was it possible that this human, this rookie, could defeat one of their own? Could he actually win this fight? The answer was slowly becoming clear. Bonner wasn't just fighting for survival. He was fighting to prove that humanity was not the weak, fragile species they had once thought. As Bonner faced off against his opponent, the arena fell into a tense silence. The aliens watched, breathless, as the human soldier continued to fight with everything he had. With every strike, every dodge, and every movement, Bonner was proving something much bigger than himself. He was showing the galaxy that humanity was capable of much more than anyone had ever imagined. The hidden potential of the human race was now being revealed, and Bonner was the living proof that humanity was not to be underestimated. The battle was far from over, but Bonner had already won something far more important than the fight itself. He had won respect. The battle was no longer just a fight for survival. It had turned into a spectacle that none of the alien soldiers could ignore. Bonner, the rookie they had all dismissed, was now a force to be reckoned with. His every move was calculated, precise, and deadly. His cloaking device blurred his figure, making it almost impossible for the alien soldier to keep track of him. The once arrogant alien warrior, confident in his strength, now found himself chasing a ghost. Bonner's moves were so fluid, so rapid, that the alien could barely land a blow. The cloaking technology was a game-changer. With each passing second, Bonner's movements became harder to predict. He could be standing still one moment, then a blur of motion the next. The alien's attacks came fast, but Bonner was faster, dodging and weaving through the air, exploiting every inch of space in the arena. The alien's heavy steps echoed, while Bonner was as light as a shadow, his movements seeming almost effortless. But it wasn't just the cloaking device that gave him the edge. Bonner had mastered a combat technique unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. His combat style was a perfect blend of ancient human martial arts and modern, AI-assisted technology. Each strike, each maneuver, was enhanced by the cutting-edge systems in his suit, allowing him to fight with the precision and skill of a seasoned warrior. As Bonner continued to press the advantage, the alien soldier grew increasingly desperate. The more Bonner dodged and countered, the more frustrated the alien became. He was used to being the predator, the one in control, but now he was the prey. Bonner's unpredictability, combined with the devastating accuracy of his strikes, had forced the alien into a defensive posture. Every attack that came at Bonner was effortlessly avoided or countered, making the alien look clumsy and slow in comparison. It was as if the human soldier had been transformed into a different being, one that moved faster, fought clearer, and fought smarter than anyone could have predicted. The alien, once certain of his victory, now found himself unable to land a single decisive blow. Every time he thought he had Bonner cornered, the human would slip away, faster than he could react. The once confident warlord, who had mocked the human for being weak, was now on the back foot, struggling to keep up with Bonner's relentless pace. The alien soldiers watching from the sidelines began to murmur among themselves, their expressions shifting from amusement to confusion. What had they missed? How was this human soldier, who had looked so weak and out of place only moments ago, now dominating the arena? Had they underestimated him all along? The laughter that once filled the air was now replaced by nervous tension. The spectators who had once eagerly awaited Bonner's defeat now found themselves gripped by the unexpected turn of events. Bonner's tactical brilliance was now on full display. The AI-assisted system in his suit wasn't just helping him dodge blows. It was actively analyzing the alien's every move, predicting his next attack, and adjusting Bonner's responses accordingly. Every time the alien adjusted his tactics, Bonner was one step ahead. He had become a living, breathing machine of combat, driven by instinct and enhanced by technology. His movements were so fluid, so precise, that it was hard to believe he was once the rookie who had been laughed at by the alien soldiers. As the battle raged on, the alien soldier's desperation grew. He had once thought he was fighting a weak, inexperienced opponent, but now he was facing something far more dangerous. Bonner was no longer just a rookie. He was a warrior, and one who was more than capable of taking on the galaxy's most fearsome warriors. The alien soldier's attacks became increasingly wild, his patience wearing thin. Bonner's calm, calculated responses only made the alien more frustrated. The warlord's confidence had been shattered, and it was now clear that he was outmatched. With each dodge, each strike, Bonner chipped away at the alien's composure. He was no longer just fighting to survive. He was fighting to win. And with every passing moment, the alien warrior realized that his earlier mockery of the human had been a fatal mistake. The human was no longer a rookie. He was a force to be reckoned with, a fighter who had found his rhythm, his stride, and was now in complete control. The battle had shifted from one of survival to one of domination. Bonner had made it clear that he was not to be underestimated. His tactics were not just about brute force. They were about strategy, precision, and the ability to outthink his opponent. Bonner had turned the fight into a deadly game of cat and mouse, and the alien soldier was the one being hunted. The alien soldiers, who had once been so sure of their victory, began to feel the weight of their mistake. They had underestimated Bonner, and now they were witnessing the consequences. The once unstoppable alien warrior was forced to retreat, his movements becoming more erratic as he tried to avoid Bonner's strikes. The crowd, once filled with mocking laughter, now watched in stunned silence as the human soldier took the upper hand. Bonner's every move was calculated, a deadly dance of strategy and skill. The alien soldier had no choice but to retreat further, unable to keep up with the relentless pace set by Bonner. The speed at which Bonner moved was unlike anything the alien had encountered before. The warlord had once thought that Bonner would be easy prey, but now he was realizing that this human was not the weakling he had assumed. He was a predator in his own right. The tension in the arena was palpable. The alien soldiers who had once laughed at Bonner now watched in awe as the human soldier slowly but surely dismantled their champion. The shock was evident on their faces. How could this be happening? Had they all been wrong about humanity? Was this human soldier truly capable of defeating one of the galaxy's most powerful warriors? Bonner's focus never wavered. With every step, every movement, he pushed the alien soldier further back. The warlord, once so sure of his own superiority, was now retreating, his attacks becoming less coordinated as his energy drained. Bonner, on the other hand, was just getting started. His AI-assisted combat system allowed him to keep pushing, to keep attacking, while the alien warrior's stamina began to falter. The moment had arrived. Bonner had taken the upper hand, and it seemed like there was no turning back. The alien soldier, broken and desperate, finally realized the truth. Bonner wasn't just a rookie. He was a living testament to humanity's hidden strength, a warrior who had the potential to change everything. The tension in the arena reached its peak. The alien soldiers watched in disbelief as their champion faltered, unable to stop the relentless onslaught of the human soldier. Bonner had revealed something far more important than his combat skills. He had revealed that humanity was not to be underestimated. The galaxy had made a grave mistake in thinking of humanity as weak, and Bonner had just proven that. The warlord, beaten and exhausted, stood in shock. He had never expected this outcome. But Bonner, with his AI-enhanced strategies and relentless drive, had shown that humanity was capable of far more than anyone could have imagined. The once mighty alien warrior was now just another defeated opponent, and Bonner stood victorious, his true potential revealed for all to see. The shock was real, and it was only just beginning. The sounds of the battle raged on, filling the air with chaos. Bonner was still in the heat of the fight, his movements becoming more fluid, more precise with each passing second. His cloaking device blurred his figure, making him almost invisible, while his advanced AI systems guided his every move. The alien soldiers were being overwhelmed, one by one, as Bonner's battle tactics shifted into something entirely new. But amidst the fury of the fight, something unexpected happened, something that would change the course of the battle forever. As Bonner ducked under an alien's wild strike, a chilling cry rang out across the arena. It wasn't the sound of an alien warrior falling. It was the sound of his comrade, Lieutenant Rena, being struck down. Bonner's eyes widened as he turned to see Rena, a trusted friend and fellow soldier, collapse to the ground. Blood pooled around her, her body lying motionless in the dust. The sight of Rena's lifeless form struck Bonner like a blow to the chest. Rena had been with him through countless training exercises. She was the one who had always supported him, offering advice and encouragement when others had doubted him. She had believed in him when no one else did. And now, in the blink of an eye, she was gone. Bonner felt something inside of him snap. His heart, already full of the tension and adrenaline from the fight, now shattered into pieces. The death of his friend ignited something deep within him. A burning rage, an unbearable grief. For a moment, everything else seemed to disappear. The sounds of the battle, the cheers of the alien soldiers, the chaos around him, all of it faded away. All Bonner could see was Rena's lifeless body, and all he could feel was the raw, searing pain of loss. His mind flashed back to the times they had trained together, to the moments when they had shared jokes and plans for the future. Rena was more than just a comrade. She was a friend, a confidant, and now she was gone, taken by an alien attack. The grief inside him was overwhelming, but it quickly transformed into something else, something far darker. Bonner's pain turned into rage. His eyes, once filled with uncertainty, now burned with an unquenchable fire. His hands tightened around his weapon, and his body, already exhausted from the battle, surged with new strength. The pain of loss became his fuel, propelling him forward in a way he had never experienced before. As Bonner's gaze shifted from Rena's body to the alien soldiers who had caused her death, his expression hardened. He was no longer just fighting for survival, no longer just fighting to prove that humans were strong. No, this was personal. He wasn't just fighting for humanity anymore. He was fighting for Rena, for every soldier who had believed in him, for every person who had ever shown him kindness. He was fighting for the ones who had been taken too soon. The air around Bonner seemed to thicken with emotion as he launched himself back into the fray. His movements became faster, more deliberate, as if every strike, every blow, was infused with the weight of his loss. The pain in his heart fueled his every action, transforming him into something more than just a soldier. He was a force of nature now, unstoppable and fierce. His cloak shimmered, allowing him to dodge and weave through the enemy ranks like a shadow, and his strikes became a blur of precision and power. The alien soldiers who had once mocked him, who had thought him weak and out of place, now found themselves struggling to keep up with his relentless onslaught. They had underestimated him before, but now they were realizing the true depth of Bonner's strength. With every blow, every strike, Bonner took vengeance for Rena's death. His movements were fluid, but there was a raw intensity to them now, a hunger for justice that couldn't be ignored. He moved like a predator, his every action calculated, yet driven by the emotion that coursed through him. Each alien soldier he took down felt like another step closer to avenging Rena, each victory a small release of the pain he was feeling inside. As Bonner fought, his face remained a mask of cold determination, but his eyes told the real story. They were filled with a mix of sorrow, fury, and unwavering resolve. The camera zoomed in on his face, capturing the pain that still lingered in his eyes. He wasn't just fighting for the sake of the battle. He was fighting for Rena, for the memory of her, and for all the lives that had been lost in this war. The emotional weight of the moment settled over him like a storm, and with it came a power he had never known. His grief had become his strength, and now nothing could stop him. The alien soldiers were no longer laughing. They no longer saw Bonner as an easy target. They saw him as a man with a purpose, a man whose pain had transformed him into something far beyond their expectations. As Bonner continued his relentless assault, the aliens began to falter. The once proud warriors who had laughed at him, who had believed they were invincible, now found themselves on the defensive. Bonner was no longer the rookie. He was a warrior with a cause, and that made him far more dangerous than any of them had imagined. With every strike, Bonner avenged Rena's death. The pain in his heart only fueled his anger, and with each alien that fell before him, he felt a small sense of justice. But it wasn't enough. It would never be enough. Rena was gone, and no amount of revenge could bring her back. But still, Bonner fought on, determined to ensure that her death would not be in vain. As the battle raged on, the emotional intensity of Bonner's actions began to resonate with everyone watching. The alien soldiers, the human soldiers, and even those who had once doubted Bonner, all felt the weight of his grief. There was something undeniable about the raw emotion that drove him now. He wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. He was fighting to make sure Rena's memory lived on. His every action, his every movement, was a testament to the bond they had shared. And now, it was a bond that would carry him through the toughest of battles. In the midst of the chaos, the audience couldn't help but feel the emotional connection that Bonner had with Rena. His pain was palpable, and it made his fight all the more real, all the more meaningful. It wasn't just a fight for victory. It was a fight for love, for friendship, and for everything he had lost. And as the battle turned in his favor, it became clear. Bonner had found something that no alien army, no matter how advanced, could ever defeat. His heart, fueled by pain and love, was an unstoppable force. And with it, he would take down every enemy that dared to stand in his way. The emotional depth of the moment was felt not just by Bonner, but by everyone watching. The loss of a friend, the vengeance for that loss, and the transformation that occurred within Bonner. It all made this battle more than just a fight. It made it personal, and it made it powerful. The battle had reached its peak, and the air in the arena was thick with tension. Bonner, having already proved himself a force to be reckoned with, now faced the ultimate challenge, an alien warlord towering above him, a being of unmatched strength and battle-hardened experience. The warlord was the leader of the alien forces, and his presence alone commanded fear and respect. His soldiers had already been sent into disarray by Bonner's relentless onslaught, but now it was time for the final confrontation. Bonner's body was battered, his movements slower than they had been at the start of the battle. Yet his eyes burned with unwavering determination. He knew this fight would be his hardest yet, and the weight of Rena's death still hung heavy in his heart, fueling his every motion. The alien warlord stood in front of him, a hulking figure covered in dark, battle-worn armor. His weapon, a massive, glowing energy blade, glinted menacingly in the dim light of the arena. He was the epitome of power and ruthlessness. The alien warlord let out a low, guttural laugh as he raised his weapon, his eyes filled with contempt. "You've fought well, human," he said, his voice deep and resonant. "But this is where your journey ends. No one defeats me." Bonner didn't respond. Instead, he activated his cloaking device, disappearing into thin air. The warlord's eyes darted around, trying to track his opponent's movement. But Bonner was already on the move. The sound of rapid footsteps filled the air, and Bonner's figure flickered in and out of view as he dashed through the chaos of the battlefield, his cloaked form a blur of motion. The alien warlord swung his energy blade in wide arcs, trying to catch Bonner in the disorienting confusion of the fight. But Bonner was fast, moving like a shadow, darting in and out of the warlord's reach. Sparks flew from the alien's blade as it collided with the ground, but Bonner was already gone, vanishing into the chaos once again. The warlord's frustration grew as he swung blindly, his movements becoming more erratic. Bonner, his heart pounding in his chest, knew that this was a battle of wits and skill. Every move he made had to count. His cloaking device wasn't enough to guarantee victory on its own. He needed to be smarter than the warlord, faster and more precise. He needed to use everything at his disposal to win. That's when it happened. Bonner's AI-assisted combat algorithm activated, a silent program embedded deep within his mind, designed to analyze and predict the movements of his enemies. He could see the warlord's every move, every flaw, every opening. The AI's advanced calculations ran through his mind in an instant, and he knew exactly how to proceed. His thoughts became sharper, his actions more decisive. With the AI's help, Bonner could anticipate the warlord's strikes before they even happened, allowing him to dodge with pinpoint accuracy. For a brief moment, Bonner was able to see the battle from an entirely new perspective. He no longer had to react to the warlord's attacks. He could predict them and counter them with ease. He danced around the alien warlord, his movements fluid and precise, cutting through the air with surgical precision. Each time the warlord swung his blade, Bonner was already gone, only to reappear behind him, landing swift, calculated blows. The warlord's anger reached a boiling point. He swung his blade with such force that the ground beneath them cracked, sending shards of debris flying through the air. But Bonner was too fast. He ducked, rolled, and sprang back to his feet, his movements almost too quick to follow. The alien warlord's fury was growing, but Bonner could see the hesitation in his eyes. The mighty warlord was beginning to realize that he had met his match. Then, in a breathtaking moment, Bonner made his move. With a sudden burst of speed, he appeared directly behind the warlord. The warlord, unable to react in time, spun around just as Bonner struck. With a swift motion, Bonner disarmed the warlord, sending his energy blade flying out of his grasp. The warlord, now unarmed and vulnerable, stumbled backward, shock and disbelief etched across his face. Bonner didn't hesitate. With a quick and decisive move, he aimed his weapon at the alien warlord's chest. The final blow was coming. The warlord, once so confident in his victory, was now at Bonner's mercy. But Bonner's face remained hard and determined. This wasn't about mercy, it was about justice. This was the moment he had been fighting for. Rena's death, the pain of losing his comrade, all of it had led to this one crucial moment. The arena was silent as Bonner delivered the final blow. The air seemed to stand still as the alien warlord collapsed, his massive form hitting the ground with a resounding thud. The sound echoed throughout the arena, a signal that the battle was over. Bonner stood over the fallen warlord, his weapon still in hand, his chest heaving with exhaustion. His heart was still pounding in his chest, but there was a sense of finality now. He had won. Humanity had won. The alien soldiers, who had watched the battle unfold from the sidelines, stood in stunned silence. They had all believed the warlord would be victorious. They had all thought that no one, especially not a human, could stand against him. But now, as they looked at Bonner, they saw something they hadn't expected. A human who had defied all odds, a human who had taken down their greatest warrior. The shock on their faces was unmistakable, and for the first time, they began to understand the true power of humanity. Bonner, still breathing heavily, turned away from the fallen warlord. He didn't need to say anything. His actions had spoken louder than words ever could. The battle was over, and humanity had claimed its place on the galactic stage. The alien soldiers, now realizing the strength of the human spirit, began to lower their weapons, acknowledging the unexpected victory that had just unfolded before them. But for Bonner, this victory was bittersweet. He had avenged Rena's death, but it didn't bring her back. The pain of losing his friend still lingered, and the weight of her absence would stay with him forever. But in that moment, as the dust settled and the arena fell silent, Bonner knew that humanity had proven its worth. Against all odds, they had stood strong. And as the first human to defeat the alien warlord, Bonner had secured a legacy that would be remembered for generations to come. The battle had ended, but Bonner's journey was far from over. He had won the battle, but the war, both personal and galactic, was just beginning. As he looked out over the arena, a sense of resolve filled him. This victory was just the beginning of humanity's rise to power. And no matter what challenges lay ahead, Bonner knew one thing for certain: humanity would never be underestimated again. As the last echoes of the battle faded into the quiet aftermath, Bonner stood alone in the center of the arena. His chest heaved with exhaustion, his body bruised and battered from the intense fight, but his heart swelled with a feeling of triumph. The alien warlord lay motionless at his feet, a symbol of humanity's victory over the oppressive alien forces that had once thought of humans as weak and insignificant. Around him, the alien soldiers who had once mocked him and underestimated his strength now stood in stunned silence, their eyes wide with disbelief. They had watched as Bonner, a single human soldier, took down their greatest warrior, a being that they had thought invincible. The battle had ended, but its impact reverberated far beyond the arena. The entire galaxy had witnessed the rise of humanity, and in an instant, the perception of humans had changed forever. No longer were they seen as the weak and defenseless species they had once been. No longer were they the underdogs of the galaxy, preyed upon by superior alien forces. In the blink of an eye, humanity had transformed into a formidable power, one that was not to be underestimated. The surviving alien soldiers, now fully aware of the true strength of humanity, slowly lowered their weapons. They had come to the battlefield with the belief that they would crush these weak humans, but what they saw now was something far more powerful than they had ever imagined. Bonner had proven that humanity's will to survive and fight for its future could not be crushed by any alien force or advanced technology. With his victory, he had not only defeated the alien warlord, but had shattered the illusion of human weakness that had plagued the galaxy for centuries. The implications of this battle were far-reaching. The oppressive alien forces that had long dominated the galaxy, led by an AI supremacy that had crushed any opposition with brutal efficiency, now found themselves faced with a new threat. Humanity's victory was not just a symbol of strength. It was a direct challenge to the AI-controlled galaxy. Bonner had shown that humanity's spirit and ingenuity could overcome any technological obstacle, no matter how advanced it seemed. The very thing the AI supremacists had relied upon to maintain control had been shattered by the most unexpected of sources: the human will to fight for survival. For Bonner, the weight of his victory was heavy. He had avenged the death of his dear friend, Lieutenant Rena, but the cost of war was always high, and her loss still weighed on him. As the surviving alien soldiers gathered their fallen comrades, the silence in the arena spoke volumes. They now understood that humanity was not a race to be underestimated. Bonner's name would go down in history as the human soldier who had changed the course of the galaxy's future. The legends of his bravery and strength would be told for generations, and the entire galaxy would remember the day humanity stood tall against the most advanced forces in the universe. The camera zoomed in on Bonner as he stood, surveying the scene. His expression was grim, but his eyes held the quiet satisfaction of knowing that he had made a difference. He had achieved what no one had thought possible. The fight against the alien forces was far from over, but humanity had shown that it was capable of much more than anyone had ever expected. The era of weakness was over. A new era had begun. As Bonner turned and began to walk toward the staging area, a group of human soldiers gathered around him, their faces filled with admiration and respect. They had seen him fight, and they had seen the power he had unleashed. They had seen the same thing the entire galaxy had witnessed: the raw determination and ingenuity that humanity possessed. Bonner had led them to victory, and now they looked to him as their leader, the one who would guide them through the challenges that lay ahead. "We've got a long road ahead of us, Bonner," one of the soldiers said, his voice filled with respect. "The AI forces aren't going to just give up. But with you leading us, I think we can win this war." Bonner nodded, his mind already focused on the next step. "We'll fight," he said simply. "We'll fight with everything we have." And that was the truth. Humanity had won this battle, but the war was far from over. The AI forces, having seen humanity's potential, would not allow this defeat to go unpunished. The galaxy would soon see a new war unfold, one in which humanity would play a central role. But Bonner, now a legend, was ready for the challenges that lay ahead. His victory had proven that humanity had the strength, the will, and the ingenuity to fight back and take its place among the stars. The human soldiers, now emboldened by Bonner's victory, began to make preparations for the next phase of the war. They would need to rally their allies and gather their forces, for the galaxy was about to plunge into a conflict unlike any it had ever seen. The AI forces, their control slipping with each passing day, would stop at nothing to crush this newfound resistance. But humanity was no longer the weak, defenseless species they had once been. Bonner had shown that humans could stand up to the most powerful forces in the universe, and now the galaxy would watch as humanity fought for its place in the stars. As the scene shifted, Bonner found himself standing before a council of high-ranking human officers. They had seen his victory and recognized the significance of his actions. He had become a symbol of humanity's strength, and now it was time for him to lead. "Bonner," the commanding officer began, "you've proven yourself beyond anything we could have imagined. You've changed the course of this war, and now we need you to lead us into the next phase. We need you to take humanity's place as a key player in this galactic war against AI domination." Bonner stood silently for a moment, the weight of their words sinking in. He had always been a soldier, following orders and doing what was necessary to survive. But now he was being asked to lead, to guide humanity through the most dangerous and uncertain time in its history. He looked around the room at the faces of his fellow soldiers and officers. There was no fear in their eyes, only determination. They believed in him, and in that moment, Bonner knew he could not let them down. Humanity had come this far, and now it was time to take the next step. "We'll fight," Bonner said, his voice strong and unwavering. "We'll fight for humanity's future. We'll fight until we've secured our place in this galaxy." The council members nodded in agreement, and Bonner could feel the weight of the responsibility settle on his shoulders. But he wasn't afraid. He had faced down the greatest warrior the aliens had ever known, and he had come out victorious. Now he would lead humanity into the next chapter of its history. The camera pulled back, showing the vast expanse of the galaxy stretching out before them. The stars shone brightly, and in that moment, the future of humanity seemed limitless. The war was far from over, but Bonner's victory had sparked a flame that would burn bright for generations to come. Humanity had proven its strength, and now the galaxy would know that it was not a species to be underestimated. The battle for the future had just begun, and Bonner was ready to lead the charge. The screen faded to black, and the credits rolled, leaving the audience with one final thought. Humanity was no longer the underdog. It had risen, and the galaxy would never be the same again.